Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Herbal Mana Podcast, where we dive into all things natural, in particular to help you hurt less and live more. And today we've got a special guest. We have Shawn Bradford. Shawn, you have started your own company. It's Breathe and Work.
Breathe and Work. Yeah, you got it, Todd.
Work. And you've got a lot of nice content that you put out. How in the world did you get onto this Breathe and Work concept? What led you to that?
Yeah,
You've got a great backstory.
It's a really fun backstory, actually. I did corporate sales for my uncle's company for years, at least 15 years, took a little break to do real estate and got into yoga after I had 3 kids, like right in a row. And it was overwhelming. I didn't quite know what I got myself into by having 3 kids within like 4 or 5 years. And I started yoga with somebody pushing me to go and do it. It wasn't necessarily a choice where I'm like, ooh, let's try yoga. I had somebody in my life that said, you need this. Watching you, I'm stressed out. Go and try this. And so I tried yoga and I didn't like it at first, but I kept going because there was free childcare at the gym. And I liked that part of getting that little reprieve. And maybe after like 6 to 8 months, yoga finally hooked into me and I started to look forward to it. And I started to get really consistent after, the years went by. And at a studio that I joined that I was going to almost every day, I was lying in the end pose. It's called Shavasana. And I was just not satisfied. I felt like I needed something else. And I actually said, I don't remember exactly what I said. I don't have a religious background, but I actually did say, God, please give me a direction. I don't know what to do. I'm not happy right now. And when the class dismissed, the teacher said to me, Shawn, you should try yoga teacher training. And I was like, no, that's not for me. I have a job already. And she's like, okay. And she never said this to me before. And again, I'd been going to the studio every day for years. And as I'm leaving the studio, another teacher walks in and she goes, Shawn, you should really try yoga teacher training. I'm like, oh, she's just trying to get my money. She was the lead teacher. And again, brush it off, go home. And I don't remember anymore which one, but one of those 2 teachers called me and said, I'm not trying to push you, but the thought won't leave my mind that you should try yoga teacher training. And I thought, okay, I'm at least smart enough when I hear something 3 times in a row to pay attention. And I signed up. I signed up for yoga teacher training, which was starting in a week. And that led to everything. When I was done with my training, I became a teacher and I did know business. And I decided to immediately start teaching in businesses because I knew that world and I didn't know the studio world. In fact, I couldn't get a job right away in a studio, but I was able to get work in a business teaching yoga. And I actually had a very name that didn't really roll off the tongue initially. I was calling myself, what was it? Bradford Transformational Yoga and Coaching. And one of my first clients, not good. One of my first clients, it did not roll off the tongue. And thank goodness somebody told me. It was my first client, Avenue 25, still a client to this day. They're an advertising firm. And they said, Shawn, your name doesn't really work. And they named me. They go, how about Breathe and Work? That's a fantastic name. Every time you come here, you're stressing to us that we need to take these time outs to breathe and then work better. And that's how the name came to be. And that's how I started my journey.
Nice to have a client to help out, especially an advertising agency sort of client.
So lucky. So lucky. Yeah.
So who do you serve now? Who do you work with?
All sorts of businesses. Now I primarily teach virtual, which I love because my kids are teenagers. I like being here for them. I like working around their schedule. And I mostly teach virtual when they're in school. And that was happenstance as well. When COVID hit, my client said, hey, if you want to keep working with us, you need to go virtual. And I was like, I'd literally never even been on a conference call before. The sales that I did was all face-to-face. And I thought, okay, will you show me what to do? And they did. Again, I got more help from my clients. And then I'm like, oh, I really like this. I can teach and be with people from the comfort of my own home. I love being at home. And I started looking for clients that were virtual because that's how they always did business, which is so many more clients, corporations than I thought. These are your big corporations generally that have offices all throughout the United States or the world, and they want to do these healthy activities online, like yoga, wellness workshops, like meditation. And yeah, it just started to snowball from there, where I sought out clients that wanted to have these services virtually. So any type of business. I mean, I run the gamut.
Is there a business size that seems to work best, or an
That's a good
industry?
question. No, not really. For a while, I was trying to target approach, like, okay, I'm just going to call on law firms. And there's been a few law firms that I've worked with. For a while, I did marketing firms, but it's really like I have shipping companies to law firms to accounting firms, like the gamut. And I have one client that's 10 employees that I work with consistently, to clients that have thousands of employees worldwide. And I'm working in all these different time zones. So no, I would say any size company can benefit. However, if I'm going to do my targeted approach of who I'm going to spend my time calling, I am going to choose those bigger nationwide or worldwide companies.
Huh. So how do you connect with these guys? Just call up the CFO. You look stressed. You must be stressed. Your industry is stressful. We should do
That's a
something
good
about that.
question. Well, having a sales background, I have no problem just literally calling up. I have done that. I've gotten business that way. I will often start, yes, with like a C level, and they might tell me where to go. It might take a lot of persistence of phone calls, emails, even snail mail. However, at this point now, because it's been since 2016, I'm really lucky where I have a lot of repeat business and I get a lot of referrals. I have a great website. My friend Stephanie Erickson Build set it up for me, and I get a lot of traffic to my website. Can't take any credit. She set it up for me, and she knows what
So
she's
just
doing.
organic traffic. People are finding you. You're not advertising.
I did do a little Facebook advertising recently, but that was the first time I ever tried in 2025, and it resulted in a little bit, but the biggest source of new business has been through my website. And that again is thanks to Stephanie setting that up,
All right.
which
What's the website? I know we'll put it in the show notes, but let's go
yeah,
ahead
yeah.
and say it too, so it's searchable.
It's breatheandwork.com. And I also think I was lucky enough when I set up in 2016, breathe. I don't think it was a big word yet. Now, if you try to set up a website with the word breathe in it, it's a premium, but it wasn't back then. So it's breathe with an E. People forget that, breatheandwork.com.
Breathe versus breath. Got to
Breathe,
get
yeah,
those right.
breathe and work. People, yeah, everybody. That's one thing I wasn't predicting, where literally had to call somebody today with a business question. They're like, breath and work. I'm like, no, breathe and work.
It's funny in
Yeah.
English we mix those up, but it is
Well,
very, very common.
English is a tough language. We have a lot of odd rules and things that make no
No
sense.
kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. Yes. Not an easy one to learn. It wasn't easy as a primary language. I can't even imagine as a secondary language.
I still mess things up. No, there's words I don't even go to, and I'm like, we got to find another way to say it. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't roll off the tongue.
All right. First session. What do people experience?
Mm,
When
good
you set
question.
up your teaching, it's virtual.
So it
What do they
depends
get?
if they're getting a class or a workshop. So if they're getting a class, I normally mix three things together. If they're like, we don't know what we want, but we know we need something, what I always suggest is we do a 25 or 30-minute virtual chair class. So come in your work clothes, be in a chair, don't bring anything else. I teach them some breath work, about 5 minutes. Then we have about 15 minutes of mindful movement, some stretching in the chair, shoulder rolls, things like that. And then we conclude with a 5-minute meditation. My go-to for first comers is a body scan. I just say a part of the body, like feet. They bring their awareness there. That's it. Super simple. And it goes over really well, because people that are like, I don't know what to expect, but my manager's making me come, or I'm getting some wellness points, so I'll come. They're always like, wow, that was really basic and I feel really good, really good. I mean, I hear the most interesting things from such a basic class, but it's not, because if they're not normally doing something like this to get stress out, it's profound. They feel so different. It's really cool.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you do that just sitting in a chair wearing work clothes.
Sitting in a chair, wearing work clothes. And that's my thing, because I do teach in studio too. I'm not trying to get those people because they're already going to a yoga studio. I'm trying to get the folks that think, I've heard good things about yoga. I've heard good things about meditation. I don't think it's for me. So if I can get them through their work and they're willing to come, which a lot of people are, I want to make everything I'm doing just accessible where nobody feels not included, because most of us can roll our shoulders. All of us can just focus on our breath. All of us can take our attention, even for a moment, to our feet. And those simple things are so profound. Like, people leave feeling better.
I want to ask you questions about that. In reverse, focusing on a body part. How do you do that? And
Oh my gosh.
why do you get relief? What happens?
Yeah. So first, I'll start with a little backstory. It's just a strategy called body scan meditation, but I learned it from my Yoga Nidra training, and Nidra means sleep in Sanskrit. I found Nidra after I went through a divorce. My kids were little. I could not sleep, and I was working in sales full time. I've got these 3 kids to take care of, to get everybody off to, childcare and school in the morning. And I was exhausted. And I stumbled on YouTube across something that said sleep. And it literally got me to sleep and then back to sleep at that like 2 a.m. panic wake up time. And so I was hooked. I took trainings. When I went back to school, I did all my research and the benefits of that, which I'm obsessed with that type of practice. I try to weave it into everything I do. And so these little body scans that I do at the end of my corporate yoga classes are from this ancient solution, Yoga Nidra. And it's super simple. All you're doing is, when I say feet, you bring your attention to your feet. I say knees, you bring your attention to your knees. And then I'll go abdomen, chest, shoulders, elbows, and so forth through the body. And the more you do it, the more you learn to be in the present moment, because most of us are scattered like this all day. And it's just training people to be in the present. If we can simply get somebody's attention back in the present moment, then they can access their energy, they can access their clarity, they can access themselves, versus being split, right? Their body's here, but their mind's all over. So it's a strategy to anchor back into right here.
So you go for your sleep yoga. Are you moving through body parts that quickly, or do you go feet and then you're focusing on feet for a while and then you work to another body part?
No, it's pretty quick. So for example, I'll just take you through like 20 seconds worth, and it's this quick when it's for sleep. It would be right thumb, right index finger, right middle finger, right ring finger, pinky finger. It's that quick. And there's a lot of science behind it, because one, there's not time for the mind to start to get distracted, because you're really focused on, we call it rotation of consciousness, moving your awareness to these different parts. And a lot of my students, clients, myself that have been practicing this technique for a long time, like, can instantly, when we start that body scan or that rotation of consciousness, just drop in. They're just dropped into themselves, and it's a solution just to drop into sleep. And the more you do it, the more it feels almost instantaneously, but it is a fairly rapid, even though it is for sleep, the voice is calm, but we're moving at the example that I just gave to you.
So I work through thumb, fingers, both hands.
We go through, there's so many ways to do it, but one of my favorites is we do right side, left side. So do you want me to just take you through the right side to see what it's like?
Sure.
Okay.
I think
You're
it'd be
welcome.
good. Because
Close your eyes.
yoga, for a lot of folks, yoga is a little mysterious. And a lot of the things around yoga, when we think of stretching, we all know what a downward dog is. We know a few things. I think it's worth showing that there's a little more, actually a little bit more of a lot. But yes,
I like
right side, left side.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I do when I am, whether I'm teaching an hour studio meditation class, I'm teaching a meditation at the end of Shavasana, and I want to start with a little body scan, or I'm in a corporate setting and I'm concluding their chair class, or even a lecture on, say, your brain on meditation. I often will end with this short body scan. And there's different ways you can do it, but I'm going to show you the right side of the body. So you can keep your eyes open or closed. And you'll take all of your awareness to your right thumb. Every bit of your awareness is on your right thumb. Now, if your mind is active, you can repeat the body part name after me. Again, we're on your right thumb. Right index finger, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger. Feel your right palm, the back of your right hand. Feel your whole right hand. Right wrist, forearm, elbow, upper arm, right shoulder, armpit, right side ribs, right hip, thigh, knee, shin, ankle, top of your right foot, right big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe. Now feel the whole right side of your body in your awareness. Feel just the right side of your body. Take a big breath in and a big breath out. And take a moment to just notice how that felt. All right, how did that feel?
I didn't realize I was holding so much tension, a little stressed today, a little more than usual. I didn't realize how much I was holding in my body. With that little exercise, I could start to feel a little almost heaviness.
Yep.
My
Yes.
fingers, hands, arms just kind of settling. That was interesting. And I wasn't voluntarily moving muscles. I wasn't touching body parts, just felt that I was settling, a little chill, a little grounding. That was interesting.
It is interesting. And one thing you said that was really interesting, one of my prompts I'll sometimes put in, you said feeling heavy. I'll say feel heavy with relaxation, because you're just really feeling deeply into your body. Really, all it is just getting you to be super present with yourself and in the body. So when we're more present with the body, we can get out of the head going like this and really just drop into the body. So that's it. It's super basic, yet you can feel it. It's really cool.
Interesting. There's something I've done for years. I have to occasionally get body work. I've had a lot of surgeries, a lot of problems. And some of the body work that I get is not comfortable. It's pretty rigorous, working through fascia and other stuff. And I have found if I can focus on a different body part away from the area that's being worked on, so if my right shoulder being worked on, if I can take my focus to my right foot, my right ankle, maybe even jiggle that foot a little so my focus goes there, what I feel from that right shoulder that's being worked on in a very uncomfortable way, that perception of discomfort, even pain, is diminished. Kind of interesting.
That is a brilliant strategy. I love that you just intuitively did that. That makes so much sense. And that really is in the same line with the body scan, taking your aware. Yeah, that's a good pain management solution. Totally holistic.
I thought I invented that. I was sure I invented that. And then
Well,
after years of researching, I ran across the gateway theory of pain, which describes that phenomenon where your brain is only really good at registering pain from one area of the body at a time. Everything else becomes somewhat peripheral, kind of in the background. If I can take my focus to the left foot, it becomes the predominant signaling part of my body. And my right shoulder becomes less of a source of the signaling for pain, which is kind of interesting, the way the brain works for what's coming in.
but I'm so fascinated too that you intuitively thought of it. And yes, there's this evidence behind it that you found, but you still came up with it on your own. I mean, it's like, were you plugged into something? Do we just know the body that well? Like, that's very fascinating.
Thanks. I got lucky. Blessed. Lucky.
Yeah, very cool.
The movement you have folks do. So I'm sitting in the chair and I need to do some movement. Now, there's something interesting. In fact, let me do a shameless plug here. Not too shameless. For our company, we do topical creams and gels for chronic pain. We've got folks that are, well, in my case, I've had 20 orthopedic surgeries. I've got stuff, just stuff. And the biggest problem I have is chronic inflammation, something we all have these days.
Yes.
And it's interesting, of late, I've been following some really smart folks like Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Jeremy London. And what's interesting is they talk about inflammation and the ways to beat inflammation. And one thing that's coming up regularly now, it's not the topical stuff. They think this kind of stuff is awesome, but they talk about movement as being one of the key things, the key modulators of inflammation. So I might hurt a little, but if I move, I can help the body deal with inflammation. When you're taking somebody through stay with the chair session, what kind of movements are you taking them through and what do they get out of the movement?
Yeah,
I expect they're getting some help on inflammation, but more.
Yeah, we'll do like 2 really simple things and you can see. So for example, you can do it with me. Something as basic as first I get them in good posture. Because one thing, a lot of us work like this, and that's
yes, we do. That keyboard's just like I'm at right now.
Yeah. And this is so weight bearing for our neck. So the first thing I do is just help them correct their posture where they stack the head over the neck. That right there takes pressure off the neck. Next, we do some shoulder rolls. You can do them with me. We inhale, shoulders up, exhale, shoulders down. Good. Inhale up, exhale down. And we're going to keep this going. When we do these shoulder rolls, the evidence says we're opening the chest, we're opening upper back, we're keeping tension out of the neck, even the head, and we're improving mobility in the shoulders, and we're helping with good posture. So all of these things are happening just from these simple shoulder rolls. Also, from the American Heart Association, they tell us for every hour we are seated, we need at least 1 minute of movement, getting ourselves out of that same old position. So I suggest people do these shoulder rolls or just stand up and do them. Just getting out of that seated position every hour is good for our heart. Let's do 2 more. Inhale, exhale. 1 more. Inhale, exhale. All right, we'll do 1 more. Bring your hands up. Good. Take one hand down, hold your chair, and just stretch the opposite hand over. Stay here. Do you feel your side body opening there? Take a big breath
Oh,
in,
yes.
big breath out. Other way. Bring that opposite hand down to the chair. Stretch up. Inhale up. Exhale over. Stay here. Feel your side body opening. Big breath in, big breath out. Good. So when you do that side body stretch, you're lengthening the muscles that wrap from the front to the back. So you're helping with your back, and you're able to take deeper breaths when you're not as constricted. So that's really good for deeper breaths and for back support, just that little side body stretch. That's all I'm doing with people, these very simple stretches, but I'm constantly giving them reminders of, hey, every hour you're seated, you need to move your body.
I've got a problem I think a lot of people have. We get at our desk and we get focused. So I bought a cheap little clock on Amazon because at times I'll get into a project and I'll be 20, 30, 50 minutes, maybe even an hour and a half without moving and not really thinking about it because I'm in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not healthy. In fact, our focus leaves, adult focus, at about the 18-minute mark. And I know for me, if I'm not moving within a half an hour or so, parts of me get kind of cranky.
Yep.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, that we need periodically to move, check our posture, open everything up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. And it's not new. Like I've been researching time management lately for a new presentation I'm doing, Master Your Mind, Master Your Time. And I came across, it's been out forever. I just discovered it myself. I think it's called the Pomodoro technique, which is a well-researched time management strategy that says, okay, turn off all distractions. It's what you were just talking about, Todd. Set your timer for 25. That's kind of the amount of time where you can have maximum focus. And then when the timer goes off, set it again for 5 minutes and take a high level break. A high level break is something where you're not processing information. So moving is the number one thing. Stepping outside, doing breath meditation. A non-high level break is things like scrolling because you're still processing, reading the news, you're still processing. So those aren't really breaks. But if you take a high level break, let's just stick with the movement. Then when your next 25 minutes comes up, you're once again like hyper focused.
25 and 5.
Yeah, 25 and 5.
I can do that.
Yeah, I love that. I love it.
Well, and it's beneficial in so many ways. First of all, the creakiness for me, if I sit too long, I get creaky. And we know from studies that the adult mind can't stay focused that long.
Mm-mm.
We can't go an hour or 2 or 3 in overdrive.
No.
Got to
No.
have those breaks. By the 18-minute mark, we start to wane. By the 25-minute mark, we better check in.
Absolutely.
That's where or maybe it's checking out, take the break. I like the way you describe that, the high level break, not just shutting down the project and turning to my phone to catch up on email. That's not a break.
No, and that's kind of a new thing where I have to admit, when I was first really talking to my corporations about the importance of a break, I'm like, anything you like to do, just give yourself a brain break. But when I dove deeper into the research, it said, no, not all breaks are created equal. You cannot be processing. It's not a break if your mind is processing information still.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. I've experienced that where, especially if I turn to scroll social media, trying to catch up, it's not a break. It kind of amps me up even worse. And it's a bad habit, really bad habit. I've got to work on that just a little bit. I saw a funny little post from a doctor saying, here are the reasons, or here are the things that can tell you that you've got an addiction to your phone. And one was, I've got to go to the bathroom. Where's my phone? I thought it was kind of funny. Kind of hopping up and down. She's looking, she's frantic. Got to have my phone.
There's a good telltale sign.
That's got a ring of truth to it.
I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
good. That's good. You know, what's interesting though, that I'm trying to change, and I know I'm up against it. And I also sometimes wonder too, like, am I going to get the people that hire me mad at me because we're not in a work culture in a 8 to 5 world where managers necessarily want their people taking 5-minute breaks every 25 minutes, right? And that's what I'm touting. That's what I'm expressing. That's what I'm constantly saying is, hey, at least every hour, but if you can, every 25 minutes, take these 5-minute breaks. Like, that's what I want to see. Like, that's the change I want to help make, where there are these work cultures that support high level breaks every 25 minutes. You know what I'd love? I'd love for a big corporation to actually do a study, like take, say, their accounting department, divide them into 2, let one half of them take these 5-minute breaks every 25 minutes, follow the rules of not task switching, let the other people do work as usual and see who's more productive. Like that would be a really cool study. I don't think I've seen one. I haven't seen one like
I
that.
haven't seen a large scale study, but I've
Mm-mm.
seen a lot of small scale. And there are some really smart time management folks that talk about it. Craig Ballantyne, for instance, talks about this. Some smart folks, but I've never seen a massive study. But I would have to think it's going to bear out the same results that small group studies have shown, as well as the clinical studies where we're actually checking the focus, the ability to focus, and we see it waning with time. So that would be interesting to see.
It would be. I'm putting it out there that there's like a big company, like big that we all know, like an Amazon, an Aetna, a Cigna, like somebody that will do this. Because like, for example, Aetna, they were one of my folks that I referenced their research a lot. I believe, if I'm remembering right, like the CFO got very into yoga and then started doing his own studies within his organization of the benefits. Yeah, I might have to fact check me there. I'm going back to like that was research I leaned on when I first started. I don't think I'm wrong on that.
All right. Okay, back to the chair thing.
Yes.
You start with, you said breathing first, the breath work.
Yes.
What is that? What does that entail when somebody's getting started? So we've shown up for the session, sitting in my work clothes.
Yeah. So
we really start with this first, breathing first.
I always start with breathing first, and I remind them, yes, you're always breathing. And I said, the moment though you just notice your breathing, two things happen. One, your awareness, your attention that's been like this, or just outward. There's nothing wrong with that. You bring it inward. So that inward attention lets you focus on you. There's your recharge right there. But research says the moment we pay attention to our breath, we just start to breathe deep. So for example, how do we breathe when we're stressed?
Shallow, short.
Yeah. From the chest, short and shallow. So the first thing I work on getting people to do is placing their hands on their abdomen and just inhale and push out the belly. Feel the belly move. Exhale however you want and just feel the belly release. Do it one more time. Inhale, push the belly out. See, I saw movement in your body. Did you feel breath in your abdomen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Once I focused just a little, yeah.
Yeah.
The first time I realized I was still short chest breathing.
Yes.
Time.
So I like people. It's interesting. When I'm teaching virtually, a lot of people join me with their cameras off, which is fine. I want people to be comfortable, but I try to like, if you want to put your cameras on, it's pretty cool. Like I can literally see what you just did where I'm like, I can see your body moving on that second round. I know you're taking a deeper breath. So that way, if I'm seeing there's still some folks that are only chest breathing, I'll break it down some more. We'll just keep going. I might have them put their hands on their side to feel more of this expansion. And then once they get the hang of that, I take them through a long exhale breath. This is my newcomer breath. I count to 3 and they inhale through their nose. We'll do it together in a minute. And then I ask them to purse their lips like they're blowing out a candle. Do it with me. And I count to 5 and they exhale. I'll tell you why in a moment, but let's try one round together. So inhale through your nose for 3, 2, 1. Purse your lips like you're blowing out that candle for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. How was that for you, Todd? Were you able to stay with the exhale for a count to 5? Yeah. So that I'll take people through about 5 rounds of that. And I often hear that what I most often hear, number one thing I hear is people put in the chat box, I didn't know my shoulders were so tense and they just got relaxed. So that's the number one thing I hear. We had no focus on the shoulders. It's just what happened with their deep breathing. Often I hear general things like I felt relaxed, that was calming, but the physical part I hear all the time is the shoulders. And the reason I had you purse your lips is because it helps the exhale to be longer and more controlled if deep breathing is newer to somebody. Years ago, I taught at a hospital and I didn't know, other than I was taught to teach the breath like that, why I was doing that. And I was teaching respiratory nurses. They go, this is how we teach people to breathe again. And I'm like, there we go. So I love that little tie in. So it's a way to control the exhale. Because when we have a long exhale, we invite the relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system, to come online. So we just can balance our nervous system or regulate it with just that simple long exhale. Yeah. Again, basic and effective.
All right. Going back to the sleep yoga. If I want to go to the sleep yoga, can I go right to the body part thing or do I need to go through this progression? Do I need to go breath work, movement, body?
So when I teach it, there are different ways to do it. The way that I teach it when I'm teaching yoga teachers is to start with breath work, to pay attention to the breath. To me, the breath is this invitation to come inwards because again, we're always outwards. which is nothing wrong with that. We're interacting, we're doing. But the breath work is this invitation to come inward. So I have them start with breath work and then intention setting. Like, what's their intention? Why are they doing this? I want to sleep, or I want to relax, whatever the intention is. And then the body scan. Some teachers will teach it body scan, breath work. Sometimes I'll sandwich it. I'll do breath work, body scan, breath work. But my preference is breath work first.
So breath work, set some kind of intention,
Mm-hmm.
and then the body work.
And then the body work. Yeah, I really like that formula. I've taught, hundreds, if not by this point, thousands of people this sleep meditation, a natural form of medication. And that's a really, that's the one that I get the most profound feedback that works for them. And this is popping into my head right now. My kids won't come with me anymore, but when they were younger and they had a sleepover, like little 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds at a sleepover come back to you, just not themselves, just grouchy. I used to always teach Sunday nights. So if they had sleepovers Saturday nights, I'd take them with me Sunday night, and 1 hour of this sleep meditation, they would literally be back to their core self, their non-sleepy, non-grouchy every time. It was so fascinating. Yeah.
Gosh, every parent needs that, especially with the sleepover where there's not very much sleeping going on.
Even though my kids know this works now that they're all teenagers, can't get them to do it. And I'm like, you guys know this works.
Well, we saw the same thing with our kids where they get those good habits and then they run through the teenage years and then life catches up.
And they'll come back.
And they start calling again. Mom, what was that thing?
Yeah.
What was that thing you showed us?
Yes. Yeah. And actually, even though at home, my son does not listen to me about these strategies, he wrote a paper at school about why it's good to get off your screens 2 hours before bed. I was like, well, you don't do it, but at least you listen to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, this is getting in there. You know, it's good for you. I trust that you're going to come back to this as an adult when you really need it.
Since you touched on that, why don't you want to be on your screen? Why do you want to be laying in bed, scrolling social media just before you go to sleep?
So I'll start that by saying one of the presentations I give and I love and I'm obsessed with is getting good sleep. I give a presentation, Sleep Better, how to get deep healing sleep. And I devour any sleep research I can get. I am obsessed with putting myself through these own strategies, at least sharing them with my kids, sharing them with my partner, sharing them with anybody who will listen. But the screen time thing, according to research, because screens are so stimulating, they make the mind like this. Even if you've got like the night thing on the screens, it doesn't matter.
Blue light blocker.
That does not matter. It's still stimulating. So the people that will bounce back at me and say, I can fall asleep with the TV, like my partner, I'm like, yes, but you're preventing yourself from getting into as deep sleep down to those delta brain waves and staying there for as long as possible. So the rule of thumb from all the researchers out there to get the best, deepest sleep, you want off your screens 2 hours before bed, conservatively at least do an hour, because your brain has time to calm down and to start getting into relaxation, versus TV makes it like this because of all those lights coming at it. It's so stimulating. So anything, social media scrolling, working on the computer, like I'm really hardcore. I'm always off 2 hours before bed, at least an hour. And it just helps me sleep deeply. Yeah.
Well, the research is compelling. I just don't know how often it's practiced. It seems that most folks have a television in their bedroom, which seems just a little nuts. Kind of handy, but a little nuts.
Yeah.
We've never done that. We have never had a TV in the bedroom, partly lack of self-control on my part. I can't have it there. It's going to be calling out to me in the middle of the night. I can't sleep. I might as well watch something. I can't have that. So never had a TV in the bedroom, never will. The bigger temptation is having that cell phone nearby. Yeah.
And of course, I don't do this because, again, with having 3 teenagers, I want my phone. Them and my partner are the only ones that can break through, but I need to know if they need something. I do sleep by my phone with me. However, the advice that, if people really struggle with looking at their phone, it's like put it in a different corner of your room, or even some people.
You have it there for that emergency call, but
exactly.
It's not within reach. And there's awfully good research about the radiation the phone puts off, especially about charging, that also interferes with sleep. Not just the visual, not just the lights in my face, but just that tiny bit of frequency that's being put off during that charging process.
That's a good point.
I've got right next to me, it's handy. If it's right there at my headboard, 2 feet from me, that's counterproductive. Counterproductive for sleep, counterproductive for the chill. And then for us, in our world, with our company, we're working with folks with chronic pain. joint issues, muscles issues, fibromyalgia, things like that. If we don't sleep well, the pain that our body perceives is enhanced. Well, that's one thing we don't want enhanced in our lives. If I'm not sleeping well, my perception of pain is increased. And it'll increase to the point that if I'm not sleeping at all, it might even turn from pain to suffering. And we don't want to be on that track. That sleep is so darn important. And we could do supplementation, which is awesome. Magnesium is great. L-theanine is great. GABA is great. But got to also have the good habits. Got to have the right habits in place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can take all of those nice natural supplements and then get glued to my screen while I'm trying to go to sleep. And that is going to undo any good I'm trying to do with those little basic supplements that are nudging the process, just nudging. Now, if I can incorporate some of your sleep habits, I mean, I like that whole concept of the yoga sleep, that wind down, body awareness. I love that.
Yeah, it is my go-to every time. Like it's still, I mean, of course it still works to this day. I love it. I try to get, and there's so many free, like on YouTube, I have free sleep meditations. So do a whole bunch of other teachers. Like we love to share this stuff. So there's no cost to get it. Like just go on YouTube, find a sleep meditation, listen to it while you're awake to make sure, you like it, and then put it on. I know you got your phone near you to do that. But I do find it helpful.
You do that a time or two to practice, and then you don't need it any longer.
Exactly. And then you can even take yourself through the strategies.
And you've put some of that content yourself on YouTube?
Yeah, I have just for free for people on YouTube. Just they can search my name. Miss Shawn Bradford plus sleep meditation, and it'll pop right up.
I think that's awesome. And it is great content. The website's awesome, very accessible. I love that. I like the social media content. I like that you've shared on YouTube. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Actual usable stuff too. I don't really like when somebody puts out little bits of bait that aren't useful or actionable. I like to see something useful. If I'm going to get hooked, and as a consumer, I want to be hooked. I really do.
Yes.
I want something that's meaningful. I want to believe enough to take another step. And I like that you're doing that with your material that you've shared. It's actually usable. It's not just, hey, I'm fixing to tell you something, but I'm not quite going to tell you. That drives me nuts. Just like a long form sales letter that never gets to the point. So anyway, that's awesome. I love it. I love what you've done. And I think this is brilliant. And I think it would help. What you're doing helps corporate America and everybody else. Everybody else can benefit.
Yeah, I agree. We need to get in the habit of taking better care of ourselves. Like that's all there is to it.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I am glad you joined me. This has been great. And actually, I was a little surprised. Those little exercises, I could feel the difference.
I'm so happy.
Is a big deal because I'm kind of on the spot here, just like you are. We're on the camera. We're recording and we know it's going to be shared. And that should be stressful. And yet I could actually feel a reduction in my stress level. So that was wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me share those techniques.
My pleasure. All right, folks, check the show notes. You can see how to connect with Shawn, how it can help, or how you can connect for your business and bring that awesomeness into your employees. You're going to have happier folks, more productive folks, certainly healthier folks. All right. Thanks for joining us today. And if you guys like the content, subscribe and come on back for more. Thank you, Shawn.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me.